riding with us this morning. I hope that you're catching us live on our website at americasvoicenow.org. You can always catch the program live there on video and audio. We have a podcasting service that you can download these podcasts. You can download a copy to your phone. There is a phone or mobile phone app. You can simply go to your app provider, whether that be iTunes or whether that be the Google Store. If you're an Android user, you can download the application for Spreaker. That's Spreaker, Spreaker. When you download that application, you just simply search for America's Voice Now, Michael Evans. You'll see every one of the shows pop up, and you can listen to them at your leisure. You can also use our listen line, where you can dial in. If you're a long-haul truck driver, or if you're someone who wants to be able to capture the latest program and you just can't be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, you have an opportunity to utilize our listen line, totally free of charge. It's area code 415-325-0725. You can call that program or that phone number 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can listen to the show live during the morning, 8 to 9:45. After 10 o'clock in the morning, you can hear the entire program without interruption or anything else at your leisure. 415-325-0725. That's our listen line. And it's radio by phone. How cool is that? If you live in a low bandwidth area and you can't download our podcasts, or you can't capture them, or can't get the streaming video or streaming audio, there's a perfect solution for you. Area code 415-325-0725. You know, this issue with what we're hearing about the information that's coming out about Benghazi is certainly worthy of, and I've been saying this all along, I certainly don't have a problem with having another select committee. But my concern is that this will be a select committee that is an alligator without teeth. Why do I say that? Because if the House and Boehner gets to set the rules here, if he does not make sure that this committee is vested with enough authority to be able to make their own charges without having to refer it to the Department of Justice, then it's a whitewash. Because I can tell you right now that just like Lois Lerner and the IRS, you're never going to see Eric Holder, the ideological racist who is, so deeply in bed with corruption in this administration, you're never going to see him press charges. Certainly not with any vigor. If he does, it will be the most nominal charge he can get away with, and it will be prosecuted with no focus or attention or intent. It will be the most lackluster performance you've ever seen. And I got to tell you, I can't believe that we're sitting here with, for all intents and purposes, all the proof we need, and instead of criminal charges, we're going to, hold another FaceTime app for these people in Congress. The rumor mill is already out there that the intent of this thing is not to be able to give them the ability to make actual charges, that they will have to be referred to the Justice Department. I don't want to hear about any more, revelations of evidence until we can do something about it, because revealing the evidence doesn't apparently do us any good. I posit the argument that was given when President Barack Obama and every one of his administrative and cabinet members lied to the American people and said, and now we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, not even a reasonable doubt, beyond any potential of a doubt, that we were lied to about Obamacare, so it would get passed, so that it would be approved, so that the public would accept it. That was a blatant lie. And we know that the president knowingly, willfully, intentionally lied to the American people. We know that every member of his cabinet did the same thing. Now, we've seen the same thing with the IRS. There's not even a smidgen, he said, Not even a smidgen of corruption associated with the IRS. And yet we have empirical, documentable proof that it's not a smidgen, it's a coal shovel full. We now have empirical proof that the White House knew about Benghazi and that they knew that it was a terrorist attack and that it had nothing to do with the video. By the way, this vindicates the guy who went back to jail. I mean, not for nothing, but that guy's got a. I mean, I know they threw him in there under a pretext of the fact that he is barred from having access to computers or some other nonsensical crap. But the truth of the matter is, the guy's probably got one heck of a lawsuit against these people. And the truth is that in this case, people were dead. And the real function here of Benghazi was not, I mean, the cover-up was for something far greater than just the fact that the president was trying to get reelected. You know, I posted an article up there on the Daily Call from the Daily Caller this morning. It's up on our website, Facebook page, Patriot FB, so forth and so on, Constitution Club. And the title of the article is, "If the cover-up is worse than the crime, what was the crime?" I'm going to tell you what it was. And even the mainstream media is now bantering the term about. It was a gun-running operation. It was a arms deal to arm Syrian rebels in defiance of, one, the wishes of the American people, which throws consent of the governed completely out the window. It was arming a known and sworn enemy of the United States, which translates into aiding and abetting, which means that it was a criminal act against the people of the United States and the Constitution and the spirit of what a lawmaker and a government official, a person who has been delegated with power to represent us in some way, shape, or form. I mean, the evidence is out there. Even the mainstream media is no longer able to hide it. And I got to tell you, I'm attributing that directly to alternative media for exposing it. The mainstream media didn't bring this out. They did everything in their power to keep it silenced. Who brought it out were the unpaid, unthanked, unwashed masses of the alternative media. That's it, folks. They're the ones who exposed this. Judicial Watch was the one who was able to pull off what all these other, even Congress couldn't subpoena. I mean, they subpoenaed it, but they never gave them the documentation. I mean, folks, that's a criminal act in and of itself. The whole purpose of Congress is oversight. Congress isn't really there to pass laws. I know that's what they think they're supposed to do, but they're not there to pass laws. Neither is your state assembly. You see, I know I hear it all the time. Well, I'm a lawmaker. You're a lawmaker? Listen, we got enough laws. We need law repealers, okay? You're not a lawmaker. You're supposed to be a watchdog. And if what you're telling me is that you went up there to get in bed with the dogs and the fleas, and then you expect to come back home and we're not worthy, bow to you, you got to be kidding me. I heard a state assemblyman say to me one time, he just got elected, and he was holding this town hall meeting. And this is a guy who had no political experience before. And he went to a town hall meeting, and I heard him say to someone in response to a question, well, I consider myself a statesman. And I almost had to laugh. In fact, I did laugh. A statesman, first of all, you're 6 months in the job. That a statesman is not. Number two, a statesman is one who is, speaking out and protecting and defending their constituency. And you can't possibly have accomplished that in 6 months. And a statesman has, Hillary Clinton would be a perfect example of this. Here's a woman who's been in power for how many years now, and she's accomplished nothing. I mean, I could just hear it. It rolled off that person's lips, and I know that it was something he heard in conversation or some advice he got from some senior member who said, listen, count yourself to your people back home as a statesman. Anybody analyzing that would have said, excuse me? These people aren't statesmen. They're supposed to be defenders, warriors for right. And we have no one in our corner. The judiciary has abandoned us, and we're going to talk about that in our last topic this morning. The legislative has completely given themselves over to the dark side. Law enforcement is actively viewing us now as the enemy. Every administrative agency has a Hitler complex. And this scorched earth mentality and positioning that not only this administration on the executive side, but every one of his administrators and every one of his cabinet members and every head of every administrative agency, it is a scorched earth scenario, folks. They see and smell the end. Why do you think they are so feverish? Look, nobody can deny at this point that no one can deny at this point that we are beyond salvage. I mean, I understand the optimist viewpoint. He says, well, wait a minute, we're never beyond salvage. I mean, we have a time to turn this around. Only if we have a 100%, 180-degree diametric turnaround of the mentality and the spirit of what is happening in our country. And that's not going to happen. I mean, it has to be today. It had to be yesterday. It's not salvageable if the same people are in power. It's not salvageable if the next people lining up to get in power are the same people that are in power today. How do you call that a dynamic turnaround? When a company is failing, the investors and the board of directors don't sit there and say, let's keep the same CEO and the same executive team on. These are the people that made the bad decisions. You get rid of them. You find new people. We got an election coming up. The Republicans are salivating and rubbing their white, lily white, slithery hands together, covered in snake oil, at the proposition that they're going to gain power in the House and the Senate again. To what end? What have they given us, aside from the NSA and the National Defense Authorization Act and the Patriot Act and other treasons almost too horrific, almost more horrific than those given to us by the liberals? There's no solution here if the same people are in charge. There's no solution if the Fed remains the creator of money. There isn't one. There's no solution here to a debt problem when everyone's mentality is it's like living in a crack house. Everybody's smoking crack. You know why? That's the reason they go there. Look, take a crack house and run with the analogy. Normal people who get up in the morning, go to work, want to have and raise a family, take care of themselves, be self-reliant, self-responsible. They don't live in a crack house. You know why? One, because they don't want to subject themselves to it. And two, they don't want their children impacted by it. Only people who desire that eternal high, who desire to place themselves into that level of self-treason, live in a crack house. Why do you think politicians go to D.C.? Because they think they know better and more than you. It's a prerequisite of their DNA. Don't you get it? The extroverts in the room are the ones who are running the show. I mean, really, folks. Gowdy's going to head the Benghazi probe. But if there's no authority, it's a toothless tiger, paper tiger. You know, and the criminal levels of this thing are so obvious that no one can deny. I mean, look, guys, yesterday it came out that they had released some documents to the Congress in their probe initially. And those documents were so redacted that you couldn't really read anything other than the fact that it was a form. Judicial Watch filed the Freedom of Information Act and got the same exact documents without the redaction. You kidding me? And then, retroactively, they tried to classify it. What? I got to tell you, people. I mean, look. The idea that anybody up there at this stage in the game in Washington, D.C., and in your state houses, and make no mistake about it, your state capitals are just as full of debauchery, just as full of corruption, just as full of self-serving abuse and micro-tyrants as Washington, D.C. That's the truth. Everything else you hear is propaganda and marketing. Am I throwing everybody under the bus? You know, I don't want to make a blanket statement like that because I'm sure there's a handful of good ones. But out of, 50 states with assemblies and an entire federal government where the total number of people in the legislative areas are probably into the tens of thousands, if we could find 5, 7, 10. If this is all about self-service, you can't say you're in service to your nation. And I fear that we've reached the point where it's so ingrained and so embedded that the disease has taken hold and it's co-opted the cells. It's punctured the membrane and taken over the cell. It's changed the DNA. I don't think there's a solution here. Even though, we'll hear more about this probe. We'll hear, these people will get plenty of FaceTime on camera, and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, if there's no example of what happens to you when you are doing wrong, then what have we really accomplished? I mean, What have we accomplished if all we get is more acrimony, more angst? I mean, really, if all we're doing is mental masturbation, but we can never actually say this person is going to be charged criminally for the deaths of these people, or this person is going to be charged criminally for the deaths of 40 veterans, then what's the point? It's just flagellation. And it's everywhere. I don't know, man. I don't know how to change it. I don't think elections in 2014 are going to change it. I mean, we thought that we might have had that in 2010 when the Tea Party, or 2012 when the Tea Party, but now they've become that which they abhorred. Many of them. All of them, I don't know. I mean, I can't say I know any of these people personally. But I can look at their actions and I can make observations that Stevie Wonder and Helen Keller can verify. You don't have to be a Princeton economist to look at what's going on in our country and what's going to happen with these climate change mandates that are coming out from the administration, which is going to be our next topic. You don't have to be an economist. You don't have to be a futurist. You don't have to be a commodities expert to understand that the laws of supply and demand matter, and that if you strip away coal and we'd have nothing to replace it, what are we going to do about keeping electricity prices down? When you base it and you say, well, we're going to convert them all to natural gas, that's great, but the natural gas prices are all over the map. Coal is not. And when you can manipulate the supply and the demand, like you can with gas, phew, man, oh man, oh man. I mean, it's just, this stuff is common sense, people. You don't have to have a political science degree to see what's wrong. You don't have to have a degree in physics. You don't have to have a degree in economics. You don't have to have a degree in anything. You can be a freshman in high school and just look at the situation and say, wow, that thing's in total meltdown. Just because it's obvious doesn't make it wrong. I mean, just because something is easy to see, just because it's clear, doesn't mean that you're not seeing it correctly. Stop listening to those people who are telling you, don't believe your lying eyes. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to tackle this issue of climate change agencies and the executive action that is being promised. And frankly, it should be setting off alarm klaxons across the nation. How much more can these battered walls and roof and foundation take? The country is about to come apart like a house standing before a mudslide. How much more can we take? Make sure that you visit some of our sponsors. We'll be back in just a moment. Make sure that you visit some of our sponsors, because these are the guys and gals that keep you listening to this program. Battery Station is an outstanding vendor and a great company for you to patronize. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. They also have a phone number at 417-257-7799. They have hundreds of products on their that they carry that they don't have on their website. They have everything you could imagine or want for the prepper or the survivalist, or whether or not you're a shooter, or it makes no difference. Make sure that you give them a call and find out what they have. They ship around the country, And you won't find better deals than these folks over at Battery Station. BatteryStation.com, 417-257-7799. If you have an opportunity to, make sure that you swing by a Pizza Hut in your community. But here in West Plains, this is a Pizza Hut right here on Porter Wagoner Boulevard that supports America's Voice Now, individually. And the manager of that location is happy to do so. If you get a chance to swing in there today, it's reduced lunch day, and tonight, kids under 12 eat free on family night. We'll be right back.